Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota podcast. It's an emergency podcast because today, about an hour and a half ago, you'll be listening to it a little bit later, but earlier today, the Proteas announced their World T20 squad for the World Cup, the T20 World Cup in Australia in October, in a month's time, as well as the squad's going to be. We've also announced an ODI squad. We don't care about that. That's fine. Timber's back leading that. But most importantly, the squad's going to play 7 T20s, if I get it correctly, against India. And then they will go on to Australia to play in the World Cup. I've got Tim here, who is my co-host here on the show. Tim, how are you doing this fine morning? We're in the same city, by the way.
Okay, we're all good, man. We're all good. It's strange feeling, I must say. Usually, when a World Cup squad is announced, there's always a bit of controversy around one or two players. It's nice to be able to see a squad and think, you know what, this is the right squad.
I'm about to take you through all the controversies.
Yeah.
With all of that. But I think the interesting thing for me, it's 3 T20s and 3 ODIs against India. They're going to go to India, then they're going to go to Australia, and hopefully they'll come back with the trophy. Look, there are controversies. There were a lot of controversies, but I think injuries kind of resolve that. And then we're going to talk about those injuries as we go along. Firstly, I think what we need to do, Tim, is actually put up the squad and go through the squad. So earlier today, we got a press release. I don't know if there was a show. I was in the air. I landed here to find what was going on. So here we are. You've got the Proteas World T20 World Cup squad. I'll read it out for our audio listeners. You can follow us on Anchor Podcast as well as the One World Sports Radio Apple Podcast platform and all the other places where you get your podcasts from. Proteas T20 World Cup squad. Tim, here we go. Temba Bavuma is captain. He's back from his injury, his elbow injury. He is fighting fit and will be leading the team. You've got Quinton de Kock, Riza Hendricks, Heinrich Klaassen, Keshav Maharaj, Aidan Markram, David Miller, Lungi Ngiti, Anuk Nokia, Wayne Parnell, Dwayne Pretorius, Kagiso Rabada, Riley Rousseau, Tabre Shamsi, Tristan Stubbs closing it out with 3 travelling reserves. That's Bjorn Fortuin, Marco Jansen, and Andile Pehluwayo. Tim, you were at the presser. So initial thoughts, Tim, of this World Cup squad?
Yeah, look, I think it's the right squad. With the injury to Rossifat Dusson, put that to one side. As I said earlier, it's strange to be able to see a squad and think, you know what, South Africa have picked the best possible side that they could have. Most of these guys are in form, in particular in this format, not just in form, they're actually in form in this particular format, which is important for the World Cup. I think it covers all bases. There are a couple of concerns for me, but I'm sure we'll get into it later. But I think overall, I don't think there could be any real complaints with the squad that's been selected for the World Cup. It is the best squad we could have hoped for, and it does cover most of the bases that we needed to cover.
Yeah, look, I think it's the one time I think South Africa have actually had a headache rather than no one else is actually putting their hand up. It's a situation of actually we've got so many people on form. What are we going to do? Some notable names, and Tim, you spoke about South Africa only picking 2 of the last 10 caps we've given out over the last year. Obviously, that's Tristan Stubbs and possibly Keshav Maharaj. But there are guys who aren't making it. Yanaman Malan, he's done okay. He hasn't actually batted himself out of the team. Someone actually kicked him out, and that was Riza Hendricks. I think if Riza wasn't on form, there'd be a question as to whether Yanaman goes or not. And Dilepe was pushed out by Wayne Parnell. He's a traveling reserve, but he's not there. Yeah, he's not in there. Also, there's I think Devil Brevis was on the last India tour. He didn't get to play, but a lot of people would be asking why he's not there. It's a little bit too early for him. He's in that Markram era. I think the form Markram's in Test cricket right now is where Devil Brevis is in, where he needs to figure out how he can string a good innings together in T20 cricket. So we're not there. But the guys like Sisanda Magala, who obviously he went for a lot of runs, but bowled reasonably well. He took a lot of wickets. He's not there. George Linder's not going to the World Cup. A lot of guys who put their hands up domestically, Senaran Muchasami, he'd be very disappointed, I think. But I think he knew that he was like fourth spinner in line. Anybody else that you're sitting there going, they'd be very disappointed not to make the side?
No, I think you've pretty much covered all bases, and I think it's the two guys that are originally, or not originally, but the two guys that have played a lot of cricket at Province. I think if you look back in the last 12 months, they were never really going to get a shoe in. South Africa made that decision with Maharaj to play all three formats. Once that decision had been made, that was the door closed for George Linder. That was, George didn't do anything wrong, but once they made the decision to play Keshav with Shamsi, you pretty much knew that was, sorry George, but your time it might come later on in a couple of years, but right now we're going in with the direction of Keshav. We want maybe a little bit more consistency in the bowling. Not going to offer anything different with the batting, but maybe just a little bit more accurate with the bowling. And as you say, with the batting, it was a straight shootout between Yanim Alan and Reza. And Reza's numbers, in whatever he's played, whether it's been for the Lions, whether it's been for the Proteas, whether it's been for the pre-season game that they've been playing in Namibia at the moment, he's delivered.
He's delivered.
When the
and
push
the Lions
has been
won
there,
that.
he's delivered. So you cannot say, he doesn't deserve to be there. He deserves to be there. So those guys might be slightly disappointed, but I do think they've chosen the right people.
But a year on, this is what last year, so it's three changes from last year's team. Rassi van der Dussen is out. Riley Rousseau comes in for Rassi. You still had Timber, Aiden, David, Reza. You've got Quinny and Heinrich as the wicketkeeper still. Vian Mulder comes out. Tristan Stubbs comes in as an all-rounder. Or Stubbsy comes in as an extra batter, you can assume. And the all-rounder is Wayne Parnell for Vian Mulder. Vian Mulder was in that side. And the other person to lose out on the spot in the 15 is Bjorn Fortuin. But I'm assuming that was because of the conditions the conditions last year in Dubai, where Bjorn now sits out and Wayne Parnell essentially comes in for him. So George Linder and Lazard Williams were traveling reserves on that tour, with Andile Petlugayo still remaining a traveling reserve. So I think this is not going to be a controversial podcast, but obviously the one glaring name here, Tim, is Faf du Plessis. Was there space for Faf? I know they mentioned Faf last year. Everyone still wanted to know if he could possibly still play for CSA, but I think that ship sailed last year in case anybody else is asking for Faf, asking about Faf. But there was a big controversy earlier on happening on social media about Riley Rousseau's status. His name wasn't listed on the initial contracted CSA players. Is there anything that came out in the press conference around that?
I think if Rassi had not been injured, Riley would have missed out. It wasn't explicitly said at the presser, but I do think I get the impression with the conversations that they had. I do think that if Riley would have been the guy that had been missed out had Rassi been fit to play. So it was a straight shootout there. Again, I do think they've gone for the better option. It's come through from an injury, but you've got a guy there who is a match winner. We hear that word a lot in the Test series at the moment. Match winners. Riley is a match winner. Riley can win you games from nowhere. So it's good to see him back. He has delivered in his short stint back that he's been back with the Proteas. He's that guy, particularly I'm sure we'll discuss this later, particularly with the fact that Quinton de Kock can't buy a run at the moment. in any format that he's playing. That includes the 100. When that's happening, it's going to be very important that you have somebody at Riley coming at 3 who can play that attacking role.
So, okay, so then what's your top six? Because the other question everyone is asking is obviously Timber's been made captain of the side, which means that Timber should play and should start. So, what's your top six looking like right now at on the 6th of September when we discuss this a month and a bit away from the World Cup?
Well, Victor was asked at the presser whether it was a shootout at the openers between Timber, Reza, and Quinton, and whether he could countenance a situation or a particular game where Timber might miss out for the way that they want to play. And in a word, Victor said those 3 are the openers. It's going to be two of 3 of those guys that are going to open, and Riley will most likely come in at 3.
Be a middle order option.
So there was some debate whether Timber might back down. There was discussion on social media with that would happen. Basically, Victor said that's not happening. Timber's the captain. He's playing, and he's going to open. So the sooner Twitter gets used to that idea, the better.
So we're going to have Timber and Quinny opening. Quinny can't buy a run. Timber's coming back from injury. Previously, Timber is at a strike rate of 130, 127 there. But you've got a guy sitting on the bench in the form of his life.
I tell you what, it is a headache. It is a headache because I think if you're going to say to yourself, right, as much as he's saying he can't countenance Timber being dropped for a particular type of game, I don't think that Quinton's going to be dropped anytime soon. I think they're going to trust Quinton, despite the fact that he cannot make a run. I mean, he's not. It's not the fact that can't make a run. It's that he looks poor. As soon as he comes out to the wicket, he looks like he's going to score nothing, and he scores nothing.
Well, look. I think for me, my comfort coming into this World Cup is at 3, 4, 5, and 6. And 6 for me is Tristan Stubbs. So Tristan Stubbs, David Miller at 5, Aiden at 4, and Riley now at 3 are in the form of their lives. They're the best T20 batters you can find. If you had to do a top 50 or even a top 30 of international T20 batters, those 4 make it in on the list. Whichever events. I know Aiden's like top 4 in the world right now as a batter. But I think Riley puts himself up there as a franchise cricketer, as a top franchise cricketer batter. David Miller, he could easily be in your top 10. And you can argue top 15 in the world. And then you've got the other 2, Tristan Stubbs, who is devastating. And then you've got and I've covered the 4. So I think it's an easier gamble to make now. It's not a gamble we would have made last year, especially having Timber and Quinny. You don't know what you're going to get with Timber, and you're hoping that you get something from Timber. And look, I know Timber's probably going to silence the doubters, but playing devil's advocate here, he hasn't played a lot of cricket. He actually did well in Namibia. His strike rate is a little bit low compared to the rest of the person I'm comparing him to is the person who's fighting for a spot in the World Cup team, and that's Reza. Reza scored like 70 off like 28 or something ridiculous over the weekend, and I think Timber scored a 40, which is fine and it's okay. And I know Timber can change his game to suit what he needs. And the thing about Timber is it always gives the guy on the non-strikers end the opportunity to get as many balls as possible. So yeah, look, it's I think for me, I'm comfortable taking that gamble with Quinny, knowing that and it's the best time. I think South Africa have never been in this position where guys are off form, but the guy on the bench is in the form of his life, and B, the guys below him are in the form of their lives. So that's what it is. But let's move over to the Burlington. Keshav Maharaj. Is Keshav playing? Is Keshav your number 7 in this team? Or are you playing both?
Probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think that's going to be the approach that they're gonna do, even though it's Australia, even though it's hard pitches rather than Asian turning wickets. I think that's the way that they want to go. I think it's the way that they think that they can get away with going that way. If you get my drift. I think somebody like Parnell, they like what he can
I
offer,
think,
but
yeah.
I think he's going to be that backup individual. So he's not
So you're
necessarily
gonna
going to
go with
play.
your so let's just deal with the spinners, right? And then we'll talk about Parnell and whether you're gonna take another all rounder. So my thing is, I disagree. Well, I disagree. I don't rate. I think Keshav's a great holding bowler, and he can hold an end for you. I don't think he's gonna get you wickets. Whereas Shamsi, yes, he's off form, but Shamsi's your guy. Shamsi should start over Keshav. It should never be an argument. And I kind of feel from a so here's the and this comes with the Timber thing. If they do drop Timber, know that Shamsi's not going to play. It's a 2-for-1 situation. Whereas you can play Timber and you can play Keshav, you can play Timber, you can play Shamsi, but I don't think you can't. You can drop Timber and play Reza and not play Keshav because then you have David Miller as the captain, unless with them trying David Miller out as captain over the past in the English summer, you kind of have a situation where there's a possibility where Keshav sits on the bench, which I'm glad for. I think Keshav's the second best spinner in the country. And if I want us to play two spinners, and I think we should try and play two spinners, but knowing what South Africa and the conservative nature will be, I think we might end up playing just one spinner and having Lungi, KG, and Anna with Parnell and Keshav. And I disagree with the Keshav. I think it should be Shamsi. Shamsi is your guy. He is. Oh, you need a wrist spinner, and South Africa needs to get this. Like, I hate this conservative thing of trying to find someone who can hold up an end. I don't care about over one. I really don't care if you get a maiden over and over one. I want wickets in the power play. And the guy who's going to get either the best chance of me getting wickets are my quicks in the power play, or I would then go to Trevor Shamsi after the power play because I know he holds up. He's one of the best non-power play bowlers in the world. So for me, I'm going there, and I don't think. And if you look at England, who are the guys we need to be looking to, even Australia, they're going in with a wrist spinner. Take a wrist spinner. I love Keshav with all my heart, but I think Keshav should be the backup. If Shamsi's injured, Keshav plays. And unless you want to play two spinners, which I'm happy to take. But then if we do play two spinners, Parnell. So who's your all round? Is it Dwayne or is it Parnell?
I think they're going to go with Dwayne. They're going to do the conservative thing. They're going to go with the tried and tested. They know what they can get from Dwayne. I think they've decided we're not going to rely on Dwayne's runs anymore.
So you're just choosing
Floated him at
to
three.
disagree with
We've
me.
we've we've tried this floating stuff with Dwayne. It doesn't work. His numbers with the ball are good enough. They're not outstanding. They're not magnificent, but I think they're going to go with that. I would prefer if they went with Parnell. I genuinely think that I would prefer if they went with the Parnell, with the variety more than anything. But I think Parnell is certainly
Wait,
better in
what do you
all.
mean by variety?
Left arm,
Oh, yes, okay.
left arm. Um, I think he's
So
better than Pretorius in any of the facets. So I would go with him, but I do think they're going to stick with what they know, and going to stick with Dwayne. I think they're
that
going to
doesn't
stick with
make
that and
sense.
say to Parney, you're our backup guy.
Tim, you go to the end of the spectrum and then you come back and say, so Parnell's better. Parnell is better. Play the better player. I don't care about Dwayne. Dwayne's not a better batter. Because here's the thing, right? Why is Andile not in the squad? Because of his batting, right? It's not his bowling.
Batting, yes.
It's his batting,
Batting.
right? And the two people who are better at batting than him are in the squad. That's Pretorius and Parnell. So if that's the benchmark, then pick the better batter. Parnell in the 11. Simple. As your 7. And we know Parnell has a higher chance of saving you if you are 4 down or 3 down by over 10 and it's him, Miller, and Stubbs. I trust that more than Stubbs, Miller, and Pretorius.
Yeah,
Even if I need a pinch hitter like they tried with Dwayne in India, Parnell's done that multiple times. He
yeah.
scored a bloody, okay, stop, let me not say bloody. He scored a 70 or an 80 in the CSA T20 last year, batting at like 3 or something. It was ridiculous. So, yeah, I think for me, Parnell's in there, but I get the thing, and I think Parnell's the better guy. So I think that's it. But then here's the thing: your other quicks. Then obviously we're going with one spinner in this situation. So it's is it Lungi, KG, and Anna, and we all agree on that. And then if we want to play two spinners, let's say we're on a flat wicket in Melbourne, who do we go to? Who do we drop? Is it Lungi or is it Anna?
Difficult one, because if we go to recency bias, we've seen
Mm,
Anna get tonked when he's bowled that faster, shorter ball in the white ball
mm,
formats. We've seen that now. The
mm-hmm.
only thing that is in his favour is these are Australian grounds. So those top edges will be caught in third man and fine leg and
And
deep
long stop.
point and deep cover and long on. They'll be caught. That's the only thing that will be in his favour.
Mm,
Um, I am. Lungi is the better in this format. I think that's true. I think it's fair to say that Lungi in this format is the better
mm-hmm.
bowler, whereas it comes to the test format, especially at the moment, Anna is the better bowler. So I think you could make an argument for both, um, but I might be persuaded to stick with Lungi in this format. I might be persuaded, even though Anna has that extra pace, which will rush a lot of batsmen, even in this format.
Yeah. This is the one place where I'm actually gonna disagree with you, and I love looking to bits, but as you say, those grounds are huge, and I don't mind going with Anna and KG spearheading it and just bombing everybody out. And I think that's only the one time I think we would do that. If it was India or anywhere else, I'd open with Lungi. But even if like we're in Dubai, even in South Africa, I'd open with Lungi. But I will start with Lungi. But I think, yeah, it's just the middle overs that bothers me. But I think we can handle the middle overs with Parnell and Shamsi,
Markham.
and a Stubbs slash Markram combination. Yeah. Anything interesting that come out from the presser from for you?
No, just what I already mentioned. Obviously there were. What was interesting was the announcement for the white ball series in India. Now
Mm-hmm.
that was interesting because I think we discussed that Malan can feel a
Mm,
little bit upset that he's not in the squad, but I think it's throwing a bone to him. It's saying we believe in you, we trust you, we think you have what it takes. You may not be in the World Cup squad, but we think you are that guy that could really make a difference in this white ball format.
so
I think
yeah,
that
so
is
obviously,
important. It's important to
mm,
just to throw that bone to him and say, listen, in India, it's going to be very tough, but we trust you. I think that's important because I think he's a really important player for us in this format going
I think
forward. He
yeah.
could really be very, very important.
Look, I think for me, the ODI squad against India is actually the only surprising thing about that is that they actually didn't bring in. They didn't have two squads. We remember we spoke about this earlier that there'd be two squads, but actually they aren't. It's not two squads. There's one massive squad. The only difference is I think Yanaman Malan comes in. Tristan Stubbs is not playing. Pesugayo comes into the main body of the squad,
Yeah.
and obviously Wayne Parnell's still there. Um,
It's
they
it's it's the World
on
Cup squad plus Andile and Milan. That's it. That's it.
yes, and without Riley Rousseau. Yeah, and so yeah, it's just it's interesting because obviously the timing of it all because then They finish their last games on the 11th of October, the ODI, and then they go. But the other thing that's weird about this is that they don't play. They play the T20s first, and then the ODIs last. So I thought the T20 squad would go to Australia, and you'd have like a Lazard Williams Invitational 11 coming through and playing these ODIs. But I think the ODIs are important for CSA. Like you've got to be seen to try and qualify for the World Cup. So yeah, obviously without the Australia ODIs, this is like probably the last chance you'll get before England come home, and England are a devastating prospect in ODI cricket. Yeah, look, Tim.
Also, just quickly, I forgot quickly. They did say that they are still going to play those games against England and then the Netherlands. The plan is to still play those games. They're not going to put them aside like they did against the Australian series. Those are still going to happen next year. They're obviously trying to find a particular space where they could fit it all in. But at the moment, they want to play those games. They don't want to not play them. They do want to play them. So expect that to happen as well.
Look, Tim, I don't mind. I don't have a problem with it. The question is, will it be enough for us to qualify? That's all that matters. You can play as many ODIs as you want, but will it be enough? Okay, not as many, but you can lock the rest of the ones in. But those three that you're missing, because effectively we could lose 3-0 in the ODIs in India. We could. It's possible. And England can come and beat us 3-0. And then we're hosting the World Cup qualifiers next year in October, because somehow the ICC still haven't announced a host. But I'm sure they're hoping that one of the big countries will drop in and you can host it there. So yeah, look, look, the ODI World Cup, I'm still worried, and it's probably going to be the biggest blemish for Mark Budge. Even if he wins this World Cup, it's still going to be a massive blemish that he just couldn't manage to handle all three. But then people will say, no, you need to split it out, and that's a case to split out the coaching duties. But yeah, look, any final words for you on the squad before we close off? And yeah, this emergency podcast.
No, all good. As I said before, it's very strange to be sitting here talking about a squad and not really have any gripe with it. I know we've discussed the two players that can feel a little, but you know what? That South Africa have chosen the better guys at this point in time. I genuinely think the guys that they have chosen are the better guys right now, who are in form, that deserve to be there. We do have the squad to win the World Cup. I genuinely believe this squad of 15 can win the World Cup in Australia. Doesn't mean they will. I still have my concerns and things, but they genuinely can win the World Cup. So that's positive.
No, Tim, I'm going to disagree with you on two things. It's not the better guys; it's the best guys we have in the country. And secondly, it's World Cup or bust for me. With a squad like this, in the form that they're in, bowling and batting, there's only like 3 people in the 11 who are off form. That's Shamsi, that's Temba, and that's Quinny. Like, there's no reason why you cannot win it. So I'm going World Cup or bust. Like that's it for me. Like, I don't want the drama of last year of underestimating Australia. There's no team in world cricket that can boast a 15 like that. I don't think there is. I can even look at England and I'm like, no, they don't have Archer, they don't have Wokes, their bowling is Australia won that World Cup because of luck. And the jury's still out on Australia's batting, quite frankly, for me. And if I look at India, I'm like, they're not there. It's Virat Kohli's in a declining phase of his career. I'm worried about Rohit Sharma. Those young kids are great. Hardik Pandya's the guy I'm really worried about. But from a bowling perspective, I'm like, well, we can fight with him.
We can beat them. No, we can.
Yeah. So like, there's no reason why it's not World Cup or bust. So yeah, I'm putting it down there, World Cup or bust. So Tim, thank you very much for the emergency podcast, for joining the emergency podcast. We had a normal podcast yesterday, so you can go check that out. That's the preview of the test match. And so and then you can listen to this one. So lots of content coming out from us. over the next month. So please do tune in. Please follow the YouTube channel or subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on the socials. And yeah, look, we've got a Patreon account there. Just put some stuff in there. It'll be great. We also have an audio podcast that will be coming out as well at the same time as this one. Outside of that, Tim, cheers, goodbye, and everybody, lesale kakahiso.